Hi, my name is Dr. Kevin. I'm a clinical pharmacist, founder of Nesis Labs, and I have over 10 years experience in helping people achieve and find their best health. We're here today at UPenn, founder Benjamin Franklin and the oldest medical school in the country, and wanted to take a few minutes to discuss why I developed Nesis, a little bit about my story, and some history on the name Nesis from a philosophical and definitional standpoint. So, when I look back on why I made Nesis, the initial intention was actually pretty selfish. I really was looking for a way to cheat on sleep. And funny enough, after 4 years of research and hundreds of studies later, I realized you can't cheat on sleep, so that won't actually work. But what I did realize is we can do things today to extend our brain's health and longevity for tomorrow. So a little bit about my story and where this came from. I was working as a clinical pharmacist in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. I was at what you call a safety net institution, where we served very low socioeconomic status patients that did not have access to care, health insurance, kind of people that were forgotten. And I chose to dedicate the beginning of my career to help those in need. And we were working at the height of the pandemic. Budgets were being cut, staff were being laid off. You can ask any healthcare worker kind of the situation and you'll hear the same story. So I was working nonstop, 10 to 12 day stretches, 12-hour shifts, and I was developing literal ulcers in my stomach from all the coffee and energy drinks, and I needed a way to increase my mental function and try to, perform my best under situations so my patients wouldn't die. And at that point, I hit a really low moment. I hit real burnout, probably the lowest I've hit in my career. And there was an older pharmacist who is twice my age with twice the vitality and energy that I ever had. And I remember asking him how he did it. And so he took a step back and reintroduced me to this concept of herbal medicine, dietary supplements, the alternative sides to Western medicine. I've always been naturally curious looking back, and I've always thought there's got to be more answers to all of this. I don't have all the answers, my textbooks didn't have all the answers, and we need a large amount of people in the world to come together to understand really what medicine is. Looking back, I've trained with a Native American shaman. I studied under an Indian yogi, actually, to learn Ayurvedic medicine. I even studied Reiki at one point. And taking all these aspects, I then went to pharmacy school and learned very standardized guideline-based medicine and thought, there's got to be another way. So that really began that journey of creating Nesis. So it started with something like 30 ingredients. Myself and my wife used to have a tote that had just lines of bottles, and we were taking so many supplements. And as I got deeper into it, I started taking ingredients out, making different formulation iterations. And after 187 clinical trials, we have 10 ingredients that form Nesis. And the way I wanted to approach this comes to the name Nesis, actually. So I'm a bit of a historical geek, a little bit of a historical buff. My favorite time period, as a side note, is the Dark Ages into the Renaissance. And oddly enough, when I started my career as a pharmacist, medicine felt a lot like that to me, where there were folks that were in power and overseeing what I was doing without actually knowing what the front line was like. They were never at the bedside when people were dying. They weren't masked and gowned, and they didn't have the respirators on. And I remember feeling like I was in the Dark Ages, and leaving was actually like a renaissance to me, or discovering this alternative side to medicine was a renaissance to me. And so I took the word Genesis, which usually has this really old, dogmatic, kind of biblical term, and I wanted to put a new spin on it. So I took the word Genesis, removed the GE to create this new beginning, this new dialogue in health and wellness. And then the other aspect from a biochemical standpoint, each ingredient is actually the beginning of a mechanism. And I took 10 different mechanisms, 4 looking at the acute stress pathway and 6 at the chronic stress pathway. And these mechanisms together actually come together to form Nesis, but they started at the beginning, the new beginning, however you want to look at it, of these pathways. And then they come together at the end to help improve sustained memory, clarity, and focus.